I'm going to be going over a quick startup presentation and welcome you all to our program and see kind of the various opportunities that we have available. I don't know if you guys have previously been to our sessions or if this is your first session. It's kind of a nice little reminder of what we're doing. First and foremost, we are an international student-led, minority-led nonprofit for medical advancement in healthcare. We have all sorts of PhDs, MDs, PsyDs. We have a lot of different backgrounds in our shadowing sessions. And so today we'll be starting and going over quickly what we do here and kind of what you can do if you want to join sessions like these or our website. My name is Kira, and I am the host for today, but I'm also a volunteer with Pre-Health Shadowing. And let's get started. So just to start, a little PSA. We do have closed captioning for anyone that needs the accommodation. This is a recorded session, so it will be uploaded to YouTube. So anyone watching this in YouTube or watching it right now, just so you know that we do have different accessible ideas or kind of things that we can do for you. If you do email us at info@prehealthshadowing, we do have transcripts. YouTube should automatically transcribe our videos, but if they have kind of weird wonky words or they just don't work very well, you're welcome to email us and we can provide you with that as well. Keep in mind that sometimes this email goes to spam, so if you can just add us to your contact list, that would be amazing. And also you can email at info@prehealthshadowing.com and you can join our email list. And that way you get kind of reminders about all of these sessions and who's going to be upcoming. So if you want to stay in the loop, that's a good way is emailing us, but we also have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Twitter, we have LinkedIn as well, and we have YouTube that's not listed on here. And our website's always great to get all the up-to-date information, but we are staying on these social medias and keeping them all up to date. So if you ever have a question about that, then you're welcome to ask. So we host people from all over the world. And I know there's a short amount of people or a small amount of people here, but where are you calling from? I am currently in Los Angeles, California. Oop. I don't know if anyone's going to post in the chat. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't have people post in the chat. I guess not. We'll see. So if you are involved or want to be involved with our program, we do have we have two different things you can do. You can be a volunteer here. It's 100% remote. Sometimes there are opportunities where we have in-person meetings, or you can kind of meet some of the people on our team in person if you're in that local area. Those are kind of rare. We do usually only have 100% remote volunteer work, and it's international. So if you're in another country, you're welcome to kind of see that kind of spectrum of volunteering. The other alternative is if you're joining our leadership team. That's also 100% remote, but it's more hours during the week. So if you are looking for more volunteer hours or more of a hands-on opportunity, you can apply online. It's at, I think I have a link on the other side. It's prehealthshadowing.com/contact/join our team. We do have different roles. There's the IT department, lead of grants. I mean, there's a laundry list of things on this corner side. Also, what's kind of cool is if you find something that you want to do that's not listed here, you're also welcome to email and start your own little project. So if you want to do something that's outside the box, they are welcoming of that. And you can also record your hours doing that. We are very flexible with kind of the skills that people want to present or show and how to boost more resources or activities or kind of experiences in this program. Which I love. So we have some wonderful opportunities to be a part of the team and to kind of join that leadership position. And if that's something that's too much for you, there's also always just volunteering, and then that's more flexible for people who don't want a dedicated section. You can kind of do a mismatch of any of these departments through volunteering. So you can kind of host, like I'm hosting this shadowing. We have a bunch of different people that are also running this session as well that are taking notes or they're organizing the chat, all of those things. Hopefully I'm not first person. there. Let's move that. So if you're a high school student, I know that we have some. They're not all often. So we do have a high school training program. It's HTP. And if you go on our website, you can learn more about HTP. What it is it's leadership and healthcare education for pre-college students. They do work with you to help make, say, a group on your campus who supports pre-health students, and that could be pre-health in any field and not just medical, which is oftentimes confused in this category. But they help with fundraising, but they also help with group resources for your clubs, and then you can run that through your school, which is a great opportunity for people who are looking for more hands-on work within their high school education. And it's a great thing to put on your resume or your school applications that you help start a group that helps people in the pre-med program. So we do want to promote diversity, and in order to do that, we have monthly panels. We haven't done one in a little while because we haven't had a lot of people who are nominating or who have set up a panel, but we are looking to start doing that more this year. So we do have different racial disparities and LGBTQ plus healthcare and sexism and education. We have all of these different diversity topics that we love having panels for that discuss how to navigate your healthcare world in those regards. So if you want to do something like that, or if you want to help support that, you can volunteer for those, but you can also nominate anyone that you think could help inspire someone in the field who is going through any kind of these diversity education or problems in their groups. So that's always a fun part, to have someone who you look up to who will speak and kind of talk about navigating that world. So we do humbly ask to promote our program or our ideas and our volunteership. If you can donate, we'd be grateful, because we do run a completely free program, but sadly our Zoom's not cheap, and our cost of upkeeping the website and all of our programs and our resources, such as these sessions. And we have a lot of volunteers that volunteer their time and efforts, and we love all of the help that we get. But if you can donate, even if it's a few dollars, that'd be great. The QR code works here, and you can also go to our website at prehealthshadowing.com, and you can go and donate there, or you can even send that link to people you know that may want to support pre-health shadowing, and people kind of on their mission for becoming a doctor or becoming a MD or a PhD or whatever your healthcare goal is. So that would be great if you guys could do that. That we would greatly appreciate that, and any kind of request that you can make to friends or family. So through the session, I know that you'll have questions. You can either type those in the chat and I can ask them. At the end, we will have a little Q&A, but if you're asking a question, I know that Dr. Barton does like answering questions, or he loves answering questions, so maybe he'll want to answer questions in the time being. We'll kind of see how that goes, but feel free to just type them in the chat. We will be recording them, so if they don't forget, or don't worry about them being forgotten or missed in any of this, we will have them on a separate page, or we'll ask them in the meantime. If you do want to talk to Dr. Barton at the end, you can always just raise your hand and I can pick on you, and you can unmute yourself or turn your video on and you can talk to him directly. That's always more fun. Lastly, take good notes. We have a post-shadowing assessment. That's a mini quiz. It's about 30 minutes, and it's available so you can take that and earn a digital certificate verifying your hours. You do need to take that in order to qualify for the certificate. Just attending is not enough. And I will go over that at the end of this session on how you get the certificate and how you finish the quiz. So our last little thing, if you can turn on your cameras, this is by no means an obligation, as we are respectful of different circumstances, but it does help us feel very close to the people that are on right now. And it's always nice seeing people's faces other than a Zoom screen. So if you can, that'd be great. If you can't, all good. We are in no push for seeing your face, but kind of fun. To start, I would like to just share that Dr. Barton is an outstanding PhD, and he's going to talk about kind of his world and his education and kind of educate you guys on maybe some advice on how to start or where to go. And I'd love to introduce him and say I'd greatly appreciate you being on and welcome you to our session. So I will stop sharing this now.
Hello.
Hello,
Good
Doctor.
to meet you. Good to be here. Good to be anywhere. My story. Uh, I don't know if you know my background. I'm licensed as a psychotherapist. I have a PhD. I have a PsyD, an MA, of course. Um, None of this was planned. This was a retirement position after I got out of the music business at the ripe old age of 30. Um, and I seriously went back to school just to get my master's degree so that I could get an MFT license and work at Pacific Lodge Boys Home and make $15 an hour so I wouldn't have to have a roommate. That was how it started. And from there, it grew. I bizarrely loved school. We had a very tight class. People were, we would always get there early and stay late. We would study together. I had one fellow student who took on the nickname Bubba Robbie. And we would drive to school from, an hour drive twice a week for years. And it was one of the closest relationships I've ever had. And the students in the school, in graduate school, and you may find this, you don't really bond with your high school graduates, you know, and a lot of times even undergraduates. But you get to graduate school and those bonds become a lot tighter if you haven't done it by then. So that's something to look forward to. And it was my classmates that encouraged me to kind of move forward with my more artistic side. And not long after I started, I got tapped by a gentleman, a Dr. David Viscott. And you probably haven't heard of him because he's been dead for a couple of decades. But he was really the first radio TV shrink. And he said, "You're a natural born therapist. Let's work together." I went, okay. And, he was rewriting psychotherapy in his own, in his own image. And I think that it was just a wonderful experience for me to work with somebody who was that experienced. He was a board certified psychiatrist. So I got a lot of medical knowledge in the process of psychotherapy and learned from him one of the most important lessons of life. Are you ready? Because true happiness comes from knowing what your gifts are and sharing them with the world. Now, if your gifts are cracking safes, you probably have to do that on a clandestine level. But if you like working with people, if you want to be a healer, if you want to help them with their lives, by all means, this is the place for you. If you're still deciding exactly what field, what branch of medicine or health you want to go into, Don't worry, you will figure it out. Don't pressure yourself. There are a lot of different ways to go. You can go at any time. I did not expect to get a second doctorate, but I happen to be teaching and might as well take the classes at the same time. And, it just worked out. It wasn't really a intentional goal. It's nice though. And that's what you want. You want nice things in your career as you gather up different accolades for volunteering. I'm sure for doing this talk, I will be getting a, gold encrusted plaque. Uh, but no, I talked to thousands of groups um, for free. Rotary in my village here, all of them, and literally anyone who asked me, I would stand up in front of and talk. Some of them paid me. Some of them paid me a lot, but most of them were volunteer, and it was to spread the word and to help people do what I think is the most important part of therapy, learning how to be nice to each other and yourself. And that changes all of the rules or all of the activities, I think. Where I went in therapy was kind of based on my upbringing in LA and Hollywood and people I had met along the way and worked with, and ended up for quite a while being an on-set therapist on the sound stages of Hollywood and also working with talent and directors and key grips and anyone else who needed me. That was kind of my rule. If you needed me, no matter what your position was, I wasn't just there for the stars. I'm there for everybody because we are a team. And making television or making film or making art of any kind, music, I did it with a couple of bands as well. It's a great way to express yourself creatively. And that expression sometimes in the arts leads to a lot of emotion and a lot of pain. And that needs to be let out so that you can continue your process. It's interesting how different people work. And I do suppose you want me to tell you at least one story. And, and I do have one that I have permission to talk about because this is a confidential field. And I won't really use any names here, but one of the people I was working with was dying of lung cancer. It was her second time around. The doctors didn't tell her to come in and get checked every 3 months. And she ended up with a lung full of tumors, and they gave her 18 months. And we started working together with her asking me, will you help me die? It was pretty heavy at the time. Still is. And I have, of course, said it would be my honor. And we started working together. The therapy went on and we did more. And she asked me to come on set and help her there. And I did and was very welcomed. And that just built into me doing that more often. It's kind of a normal growth pattern, but in an industry that we're not really privy to. I'm not the only on-set therapist in the world. There aren't a lot of them. They're trying to do it more, but now with the death of DEI, I think that it's going to be different. But if you are interested in that, it's a very fun thing to do and can be very heavy, which I'll share with you in a minute. because my client dying of cancer on set had a medication mix up. I mean, when you've got cancer and you're dying, you're taking a lot of different drugs. And she had a medication mix up, and it was like she was drunk. And they called me in, and I got her out of the set and into a trailer, and we talked, and she was crying. I've ruined my career. It's all over for me. What can I do? What's going on here? What is the matter with me? And I said, okay, what have you been taking? What have you been doing? And took the wrong medication, and it made her high. It was that simple. So we took a couple of hours and a lot of water and got her to the point where she felt like she could talk to the director, who I spoke with previously, and said, can you please come to the trailer? We need to talk to you. And, actresses are actresses because they know drama. And although it was a bit dramatic, it was very poignant. And he walked into the trailer. Are you okay? How are you? What happened? She said, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I mixed up my medications and it messed up my brain for a minute or two. And he said, what's going on with you? And she just took off her wig. Poignant moment. He got it. We reshot the scenes at 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was on board. Everything worked. And at the end of the series, the last episode, she on the show they wrote in her death. And in the last episode, she literally acted her death and funeral, which was incredibly cathartic for her and allowed her to feel safe at a very scary time in her life. She was also able to do a public service announcement, which they ran a few times. And if you happen to be a smoker, please quit. I don't want to see you die. And I don't want to outlive you. So please don't smoke cigarettes. That's what caused the cancer. No question about it. Don't smoke anything. If you smoke anything long enough, you will get cancer. That's the rule. So think about it before you indulge. I know it's very stressful being a student. I believe that no one works harder than a student. You'll find when you get into your profession, it's a lot more laid back than when you were in school, having to study, meet deadlines, timelines. I mean, yeah, you're going to have to take tests and get there. But once you get settled in your profession, you get to call the shots. You get to set your own schedule. You get to make your life the way you want it to be. And in my world, I have clients all over the world. I start at 6 o'clock in the morning with calls from Europe and see a few people in person. I know that isn't done much anymore, but I actually do. And then I go on to my other work, consulting or writing. And it's important to me to keep writing, to keep publishing, to keep the message out there. And the message is we can all feel better. We can all be happier. We can all have more love in our lives if we just learn the right behaviors and habits. I I have ADD, if you couldn't tell already. And I studying for my boards was challenging at best. And the best way for me to do that, the best way for me to study with the ADD is to have some noise going on in the background. Classical music really actually works best for a lot of people, but not for me. I ran I had reruns of old Star Treks going. The James Kirk old Star Treks, you know, and it was before streaming and there were still commercials. And I would take practice exams and practice exams and practice exams one after another for months until I felt comfortable. And I took my boards and I did actually pass. Um, I think that you have to find your own way of studying. It's not necessarily what's traditional. It's like mine was practice tests. That's what worked for me. Maybe you're a reader. Maybe you work better in a group. I loved law students because they always studied in groups. It was great. And I think, one person handles one thing, one person handles another. But if you're a surgeon, you're doing the work yourself. So you have assistants around you, but sometimes you have to lead and take the reins and learn that you have not just control, but you have the skill set to be an incredible doctor if that's really what you want to be. If that's really what you want to be. If it's not, if you're being a doctor for any other reason, you need, or going into healthcare for any other reason than that you really, really want to do it. You don't want to be a doctor just because your dad was a doctor or your mom was a doctor. You know, you don't want to, you certainly don't want to go into psychiatry just because it's a family business. You know, um, you have to be there because you are self-motivated. It's something inside of you that says, this is what I need to be. I was asked after as I was ending my music career and discussing what I might possibly do with my life, do you want to be Dr. Barton? And it took a minute, but yeah, I did. It wasn't an ego thing. It was, I want to help people because people have helped me. And I got a great deal of help from my therapist after my first wife passed away. And I was only 30 years old. And it was not even 30. And it was just devastating for me. I couldn't move. I was watching a 12-inch black and white TV with a bad vertical hold for 3 months. It was, and she too died of cancer. Um, was very, very sad. And I went into therapy. Thought that's probably a good idea. And it was my therapist who inspired me to study. And another therapist who encouraged me to go beyond the masters and get my doctorate and not just be a drug counselor, but also be a therapist. I started out in the drug counseling thing. It makes sense coming out of rock bands, right? I knew that world. Um, but I was quickly convinced that I could do more with my life. And I always wanted to be someone who would help others in a way that made them feel better about themselves to the extent that it helped them make the world a better place. If I help make you better, please help your kids be better. Please help your family be better. Everyone has to work together. I know there's all kinds of different fields watching this right now. Kira, can you give me some of them?
Fields that people watch.
Yes, fields of people who are watching.
We have a lot of MD people on usually on these sessions, but I would also say that there are also people that are looking into social work or public office type jobs. I know that there was a few people that were looking into environmental sciences that also oftentimes come on of these sessions, but there are a lot of people that are going into casework, so more social side of psychology or more social side of sociology. So
Hmm.
there's also people in that kind of realm, but I do would say we do often get a lot of MDs. There are also sometimes people with MD PhDs that go into work with um, I'd say yeah, it's the more social side of MD PhD route. But I would also say that there are some people who are looking into neurology or those kind of topics.
I could use a good neurologist right now.
Hopefully
Great.
they'll speed through their route.
That's great. There's a large variety of people, and you all can learn from each other if you take up that mantle. If you decide to, communicate, have a study session, a group, bribe a speaker to come talk with you. It,
No
it,
bribes were made in the making of this video.
no, 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 no bribes. Begging and pleading, but no bribes. Um, no, I think that having a group of people that you can go to and relate to about your life and your work. Come on, it's kind of like group therapy, right? But don't think of it in that way. I would run one of my side hustles was working with CEOs and their companies and in groups of 12 to 20. It's like herding cats and talking to them about what's going on in their businesses and them sharing and everybody helping everybody else solve their problems. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Not having to reinvent the wheel, you know? When COVID was coming and we knew it, all businesses were going to go through the same things. So let's talk about it as a group. And that way we don't have to reinvent the wheel, each of us. We can share our ideas and make the process go a lot easier. That works. You want to be at the leading edge, if you can, of what's needed in society. But let's talk about what's going on in society for just a second, because I don't need a show of hands, but I'm sure a number of you are planning on going into public health. And I wonder if that's even going to be there in 6 months. Um, Hopefully, they can't destroy it all. It's very ingrained. Our health system is very ingrained, but they're already cutting Medicaid, and it's going to be a lot different. So you need to prepare mentally and emotionally. Yes, I'm doing therapy for this change that's coming. We need to see that things are going to be different, at least for a while. And we have to try to understand how to work within what's becoming a limited system. I think that given this group that you've got, what a great way to sit around and discuss this stuff together. You know, Kira will volunteer as your group leader. And
Join the leadership team.
yes, yes. Leadership is very important. I've spent a lot of time teaching it, using it in my CEO groups, which is another extension of therapy or organizational psychology or babysitting, depending on who you're talking to. But there are a lot of great opportunities for you to use your training, talent, and ability, if you like being in front of people, to share with them what you know, help them with their businesses, and make money while you're still in school. Yes, you can do that. It is quite, it's done all the time. I mean, my God, Mr. Beast is what, 26, 28, you know? Not that he's doing anything in the medical field, but there's no rules anymore. You start your own YouTube channel and you've got good information to share. It's build it and they will come. Kevin Costner movie. You might remember the line. Um, if you create something for someone to grow from, to learn from, or to have joy from, they will hopefully find you if you let them know, if you're out there. And by doing it with groups that you know, the people in the groups will tell other people, and those people will tell two more people, and they will tell four more people, and eight more people, and that's how you expand. Am I making sense?
Definitely.
Is it helpful?
Of course.
Okay, ask me a question.
Okay, I do have a question. On the more work side of things. I mean, I have a bunch of questions, but have you done any research, and would that be a specific condition or specifically in some kind of realm?
I've done tons of research. I mean, graduate school is all research, research and writing papers. That's all you do. And my papers turned into books and newspaper columns. And I was not going to write a 160-page thesis and not find a way to get paid for it. That just didn't sit well with me. And, you know, yeah, my first book, Emotional Fitness for Couples, was based on my master's thesis. So it really, I mean, again, you can use different parts of your learning, your education to enhance your career. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you better and a doctor. And, I mean, some people learn to write from it because that's what you're mostly doing in psychology and sociology. Some people in medicine write as well. And by the way, if you don't know who M. Scott Peck is, Dr. M. Scott Peck, he wrote a best-selling book called The Road Less Traveled. But he wrote a more important book called People of the Lie. And I want you all to read it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It will explain to you a lot of what's going on in the world right now. And it was written 25 years ago. But sometimes the great knowledge is written a quarter of a century ago. We just didn't listen to it. What else do you want to know?
So if you could go back to yourself going to your ND or your MS program or your MA program, I forget which one it was. Um,
Same.
what kind of advice would you give yourself that you think would help you? Is there anything that kind of threw you for a loop that you weren't expecting and that you wish you had some kind of knowledge about?
Well, there were a couple of experiences. The first one is I got the syllabus for my first class. I read it several times, and then I read every book on the syllabus. And then I started already writing papers and taking notes on the books that I was reading. And I walked into class the first day feeling incredibly prepared. And what did we do? We watched a black and white movie starring Charles Boyer and Betty Davis. Betty Davis. And I was like, okay, I guess it's different than it used to be. And every teacher teaches differently. I enjoyed the class. Uh, my teacher, Erlita Chenault, is still on LinkedIn. We communicate. And she was awesome. She was an awesome therapist and an awesome teacher. I then had another experience later on in my program because I had already started working. I was volunteering with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in the field of death and dying, and with Louise L. Hay, also in the field of death and dying, and working with AIDS patients. And everybody in my class knew what I was doing. Everybody was, I think, proud of me, and we talked a lot about it. Very hard work. I cried every day. It was not fun, but it was important. And it was at the beginning of the AIDS crisis, and people were dying right, left, and center. And I worked with cancer patients and the gamut. And it made me feel like I was doing something of importance. Sometimes your feelings take you to places where you feel like you're doing something important, and then you make the mistake of thinking that you are what's important. I had a new class. Frankly, I don't even remember which one it was. But we went around the room and everybody talked a little bit about what their goals in the field was and what they were currently doing, you know. And, there I was talking about Dr. David Viscott, Louise L. Hay, and Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and the work I was doing, and people were doing good stuff. But remember, this was my MA, first year. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know. And I did not know that what my teacher did in her practice was a real thing. Because when we got to her, she said, I'm involved in pet bereavement therapy. And my whole being with all the death and dying that I had seen and the hardness of the work, pet bereavement therapy, I was like, huh? It just came out. And it's a true story. And every one of my fellow students was looking at me like this. I had to retake every test, rewrite every paper. It was really hard passing that class. The teacher was a little pissed. Um, Interestingly enough, after I graduated, I'd never had a real pet. And during that time, I did. And my kitty Pancake um, died. And I finally understood pet bereavement therapy. And, shit. Currently, my kitty Phoenix is in hospice care here at the house. And while I was resting up for this arduous discussion, we were just lying down and purring and petting. And I really understand, and you need to understand the importance now of pets in people's lives. They are no longer just animals. They are no longer just pets. They are our fur babies. And I cannot tell you how difficult this is. and how much support I've been getting through different vets and doctors and, you know, people who are practicing holistic medicine with animals and what we can do. She has a tumor in her chest the size of a peanut, and to get it out, even if it's not cancerous, would kill her. So she's 13 and a half, and it's just not, I wouldn't do it to myself. I'm not going to do it to her. And I'm sharing with you something very deep and personal. When you do that, you'd be amazed at how your patients bond with you. No, you're not supposed to talk about yourself. But hey, I come from an AA background. We self-share, we overshare. Um, I have found that this style of therapy, for me, for my clients, works well. I don't work with anyone who I haven't experienced what they're going through. If I haven't walked in their moccasins, I'm going to move them on to somebody else. I also don't work with child molesters. I also don't work with lawyers because why discuss therapy with someone who's trained to argue? Um, it's my own personal thing. But yeah, you're going to meet doctors who also have JDs. That 1.1% of the population that's both a doctor and a lawyer. And I think that if you use it right, I think it's a really great combination. I think if you use the PhD, MD thing right, it's fabulous. It makes a fabulous psychiatrist. Or just a medical doctor, but not just a medical doctor, but also a medical doctor. Sorry. I would like the field to become much more aware of psychology in their patients and much more aware of the value of making that personal connection. It's been frowned upon, and I find that it works. And I'm not saying become friends and go out for coffee. I'm saying you share an experience that relates to theirs so that they can see that you know how they feel. Does that not make sense? That if they know that you know how they feel, that gets them to feel good about what they're doing with you. Sessions, okay? Always this happens. I mean, somebody, one or the other or both, if you're doing a couple session, brings up the same thing every single time, right? Oh, he brings this up all the time. Oh, she brings this up all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I have to tell you, the only reason someone repeats something time and time again is because they do not feel like they have been heard. And it is so simple to make that happen. And yes, right after this word from our sponsors, I'm going to give you that answer, how to do that. If somebody says all the time, you never pick up after yourself. You just, I mean, the floor is your laundry basket. It's why do I have to bend down and pick that stuff up? It's just not fair. And what the other person might say is, oh, I'm paying the rent, and it's grousing around. No, what you say is, I hear that it upsets you that I leave my clothes on the floor. And I'm an adult. I can do better. And if that's going to make you happy, I definitely will do better. And I will put my clothes in the laundry basket. You paraphrase what the other person has said and you apologize and tell them that you will do it differently. And by the way, an apology has several parts, and different people say different things about it. But yes, there's the I'm sorry, and there's the I'll never do it again, and there's the I really didn't mean it, and I if it hurt you, I apologize. And then there's this part. How can I make it right? And that's the part that people forget. How can I make it right? I have another thing I want you to take a look at. Um, there was a gentleman named Randy Pausch who wrote this book. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and he gave a lecture titled The Last Lecture, also the title of the book. And it's supposedly parenthetical. It's what a college professor would say to their students if they were dying. In Randy's case, however, it wasn't parenthetical. He had pancreatic cancer and he was actively dying. But he gave this incredible, incredible speech, which has been memorized and copied by hundreds of people. His students gave it because it was so powerful and so direct. But you don't have to watch the whole hour, which you can find online, of course. You can just go to oprah.com, type in the last lecture, and there's a 10-minute version. And in that 10-minute version, you will cry enough. But he will also give you that lesson on how to make the apology. And, I don't like to force people or even suggest to people that they watch an hour of something because that can be too long. 10 minutes they can handle. Bite-sized chunks, you know. My books are subtitled 10 minutes a day to a healthy relationship. Because you read a chapter, you do an exercise, it's 10 minutes, great. It the idea is to make it easy for your clients, patients, family, and friends to have a healthier life, to accept what they are faced with, learn from it, and grow from it. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. Thank God. Because if that stops, I think I stop. And that's why I continue to write. It's certainly not for the money. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live off my book royalties. I'm not Stephen King. I it amazes me though that I still every day I get fan mail. And from my newspaper column, which goes out in about 100 newspapers around the country, and you can find me. Just Google me, and that's all you'll see are columns that I've written. And they're all about, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness and how to have a healthier, happier existence with your spouse, your kids, your family, and most importantly, yourself. If you are mad at yourself, if you don't like yourself, you don't have to love yourself, but you do have to like yourself enough to realize that you are worthy. You are worthy. You know, you don't have to love yourself first. This is a lesson that a lot of people disagree with. So I'm going to talk about it. A lot of people feel like if you don't love yourself first, nobody else is going to love you. And that's horsepucky. You didn't laugh. Okay. That's horsepucky. It's an old expression. If you find somebody who you feel is really admirable, who you really think has got it together, and that person loves you, Trust me, you will love yourself really quickly. And, I'm not saying, go after your idols like, Tommy Lee or, whoever else, who's the bad boy of rock and roll right now. Joe Bonamassa, Bonamassa. It's whoever. It's the idea. The idea is that you be good to yourself. You learn to love yourself by letting other people love you and taking that in, bringing that in. I think we hear "I love you" a lot from different people. Love you, mean it, kiss, kiss. But I want to hear it from people that I want to love me. And so that's what one of the things that you work on in life is building a support structure of people who love you. If you have family, you are blessed. You are very, very lucky. And even if they're slightly dysfunctional, like, oh, I don't know, all of them, you are still very, very fortunate. It is something that will make your life much better, even if you think they're on the other side and I can't talk to them. Family is important. That's coming from someone who knows firsthand what it's like to lose one and not have it. So please honor that part of your life. Honor those people that love you. And through them, you will learn to love yourself. And when you do that, your creative ideas, and if you have ideas about different aspects of medicine, those are creative. Okay. Those ideas that you get will be better, stronger, and you will be better and stronger and more able to help the people that come to you for help. You wouldn't be going into this field if you didn't, if you just wanted to make money, you'd go into computers and artificial intelligence. Come on, you know. I mean, you'd mine Bitcoin. I think that for what it's worth, you're doing this because you are one of the few people, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller that want to be out there helping others. We need you. I need you. I hope you graduate by the time, I know that it's a difficult choice to make. And now things are changing radically, and you might be questioning your choice. But stick with it. Keep writing your poetry. Keep painting your paintings, knitting your scarves, whatever it is you do that makes you feel a little bit creative and a little bit more calm. And trust that this field is the right place for you. I There's a part of me that wishes I'd never left music and I was still on stage. Okay, I get it. You get it too. But I would not give this field up for love or money. I've been very fortunate. I've done well in the field. I've gained a little bit of notoriety, if that's still a good word. And it's followed me and life is nice. And I hope it is the same for you. I just want you to understand that right now it's a little dodgy in the helping professions. If you're not a little bit scared, good, but maybe you're not being quite aware of what's going on. So open up your eyes a little bit. It's a scary time. That being said, you're brave for going into the field and you can brave whatever it is you get. If something doesn't work out in one organization, if you don't get a grant from one place, you apply at another. If you don't get hired by one hospital, you apply at another hospital. If you don't get accepted by one college, you apply to you come on. You know you don't apply for just one college or one job. You're on LinkedIn and your resume is going out to dozens of places and people at one time. And they're looking at you. And then people like Kira come and find you and say, Can I talk to you? Can you talk? Would you be, can I mean, if you're out there, even just a little bit and on social media, I mean, everybody is, and you put good things out there, people do find you. And you're doing this so that they will find you and so that you can help them. Now, don't go beating the bushes. Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? Put your good deeds and your good works out there in whatever form they take and let them come to you. Remember, if you build it, they will come. That's from a field of dreams. Questions?
Yeah, playing off of that
Yes.
and the mass applications of med school and beyond.
Mm.
What would you say makes people stand out? What would you have as either traits or advice to make someone look unique when there's people that submit 50 applications in a minute?
That you have already been working in the public sector, that you have already done something of significance, working, spending time in the public sector and helped. That stands you out, especially now. Um, yeah, it kind of helps if you've written a couple of books, cut a couple of records, But you're students. What you can do now is what Kira's doing. You're volunteering for an organization that helps other students or other people. Having this on your resume, Kira, is going to help you stand out. And I couldn't recommend anything better, other than, writing a book and getting a Pulitzer Prize nomination. Just the nomination's enough. You don't need the award.
Oh yeah, the easy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, the easy stuff. You could, if you have a local paper in your hometown, you know, and you're in the health field, you could write 10 tips to avoid the flu in winter and send it to them and see if they publish it. And going from just getting something, one thing in your local paper, one article, you can spin that off and send it to other papers. And my column started in what would be my local paper, the Ventura County Star, and went national after 6 months. And that was 20 papers, and now it's in over 100. And it's fun for me to put my thoughts down on paper. It's also therapy for me to put my thoughts down on paper. If you're struggling and you've got a stigma about seeing a therapist, writing, journaling is a very tried and true way of getting past your pain, helping you cope with it. And if you've never tried that, I can only highly, highly recommend it. Um, would you like another story?
Yes, of course. I would love stories.
So there I was doing my CEO thing, right? Speaking to a group of CEOs and groups of CEOs. I would do this once a week all over the country. I would get on an airplane, fly, talk, come home. That was my dharma. That was my work. And I, before this one talk, was ceremoniously dumped by my girlfriend, and pretty unexpectedly, because I thought, after all, I was me. Why would she do that? And I was just devastated. I was in tears driving down to San Diego, crying the whole way. Probably set a new record, you know. Um, got to my hotel-ish thing, and all I could do, my head and heart were so full of pain. I opened up my computer and I just started writing. Just started writing my pain, whatever it was. It just came out. And I ordered room service, of course. And they pay for it. And and I'm writing and I'm writing. And I get there in the morning and I'm early and I set myself up. I open up my computer and I continue writing about my pain, not about what I'm going to talk about. Okay. And I don't remember what the talk was, something like the Olympic formula for success or some, title like that. And I worked with Olympic athletes one season. It was fun. Um, and the talk began and I switched from, Word to PowerPoint, delivered my talk. The break came and I continued typing out my pain. The break ended. I went back to the PowerPoint, did the whole talk, right? Closed my computer, shook hands with everybody, and made my way back to Los Angeles, where my home was waiting for me. I got back home, opened up my email, and there was a note from the chairman of the group saying that was the best presentation he had ever heard. What can I tell you? It came out of pain. And that's what expressing your feelings to yourself in a constructive manner can do. It gave me the ability to focus on what they needed to hear, not what I needed to talk about. And that magical little formula of writing out my pain worked for me. And I never stopped. I mean, I've been writing all my life anyway, since I was in second grade and plagiarized Bambi. Called it Dora Doe, didn't think anybody would notice. Um, and that's where I learned something very, very important. Well, it wasn't really until graduate school that I learned that, you know, they don't like it when you steal from one source. It's plagiarism, it's a bad thing. However, when you steal from many sources, it's called research and they love it. It's required. So just remember, cite your sources and you will live happily ever after in graduate school and possibly beyond. Next, any questions from the audience or have they all left?
No, there's still a few people here. But we are gonna wrap up a little bit. But I do have one last question because I know that it's one of the questions that a lot of people kind of are iffy about, or they kind of debate. You've been in both private, and I don't know if it's considered public, but kind of the both clinical work that's more private, where you have more of a say, and then work with say a big company.
Companies, organizations, it's always easier to be private.
Yeah, so
It,
what would you say is kind of the bigger differences in more of, let's say, your flexibility with working or moving or choosing your clientele or any of those kind of reasons?
okay. Private practice for me, it works better than a large clinical setting just because of my personal comfort level. And I have I have a clientele already. It comes to me. If you don't have a clientele, it's really better to work for an organization that creates a clientele for you. And when you are done with your internship and working with those clients, they come with you and they start your practice. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? My when I was an intern, my clients came with me. And fortunately, I was a successful intern and it worked. But I did intern at an organization, but I found a nonprofit that was small and really catered to individual therapy versus en masse and trying to do too much and make a name for themselves. They were just there to do the work of therapy. It was called the California Psychological Foundation. It's no longer in existence, but it was a great place for me to internship. One of the places I interned. And then Vincent had a question, right? What's my opinion of podcasts? It depends on how many listeners they have, Vincent. And if it's not over 100,000, I don't bother. Um, that being said, if you want to do a podcast, that's an awesome way to get started. That's an awesome way to start. You've got time. Build your audience, right? And the other thing you can do with podcasts is you can move that over to live radio. I know people don't listen to it anymore, or think they don't, but a lot of people listen to it. And pretty much any radio show I call up, I could get a guest spot on. If you do a good podcast, that's how Mr. Beast started, and he's worth $500 million. Um, don't get me wrong, I don't like him. I'm just using him as a success example. Okay. Um, I think that podcasts right now in your career, why not? Give it a shot if you like that environment. And then take recordings of your podcast, make a demo reel, and send them to your local radio stations. Maybe you'll get a show. I got my NPR show by doing a Rotary talk for free, for fun and for free, right? Did a talk at Rotary, and the head of the local NPR radio station heard my talk and said she wanted me to be a guest on her station. I did that, and she said she wanted me to have a show. That's how it worked. So one podcast, one lecture, one column, one newspaper article, one book. It all starts with one. All starts with doing one thing different than you're doing right now. Volunteering. Don't have to worry about making a name for yourself. Let your work speak for you. I have a bunch of memes that continue to go out all over. Oh, shut up. Continue to go out all over the place. And in the beginning, I made the mistake of signing them, Dr. Barton Goldsmith. They will find you if it's good enough. And besides, if you post a meme, your name's on it anyway. You don't have to like beat their heads into it. So, I mean, it's just, be subtle and let people come to you. And it's again, it's very easy. What's the question? I was wondering.
It says, even though your job can take an emotional toll on you, do you ever regret being a psychotherapist?
No, I never regret being a psychotherapist. I just wish I was also still, on stage with George Thorogood and the Delaware Destroyers. You know, um, I don't regret being a therapist. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to make a difference and make a living. I know it's different now. There's all this with, Headway and all the online therapy, talk and text with your therapist. And I know it works because I did online therapy all through COVID. That being said, nothing replaces face to face. And learning as an intern, nothing replaces face to face. The way that you used to get creden credentialed as a therapist, as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, you would sit at the feet of a well-known, successful old psychiatrist or psychotherapist like me, and you would learn from them individually. They would basically tutor you by you being there with their clients, patients. That's how it used to work. That's how it used to be. You used to be able to get a license that way. Now it's different. Mental health is a great field to go in, but like pretty much everything else, if it can be abused, it will be. And 80% of people in therapy have had thoughts of sexual connections with their patients. If you get those thoughts, you have one thing to do and one thing only: refer the patient out and go to your own therapy. Two things to do. It's countertransference. Go to your own therapy and refer the patient out immediately. Immediately. You don't. That's one thing you cannot do. And the rule of after 2 years, you can date your patients. Studies have shown that 80% of the time, therapists who do that cause harm. We're not supposed to cause harm. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You do not have to go with old clients. What happened to Match.com? I mean, give me a break. Please don't do that. That will ruin your life. People will, and be concerned about doing it the right way. You want to be an honorable therapist. You want to be a good therapist, not just a good enough therapist. I think good enough is great for relationships, but if you're going to be a therapist, you got to be better than good enough, especially if you want to succeed.
Definitely. Well, I'm gonna close this out unless you have one or two kind of advice things to give anyone.
Be nice. If you're not naturally nice, learn how to be nice.
Professionally nice.
Professionally nice. And if you are going into therapy, get your own therapist. I do not know why being in your own therapy is not required. It's required when you're in school, but it's not required when you graduate, after you get licensed. And I'm sorry, it's the second most important thing. And you need to be in your own therapy, even if you just do it once a month. That's fine. Work with a master therapist and learn, but also talk about what's working you inside your head, because you can't tell me nothing isn't. There's all kinds of things, you know? So please, and even if you're in the medical field, and therapy would be good for you too. And if you're in the insurance field, it's mandatory. That was a joke. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate you coming to the party. And if you can't find me here, you can find me on, you know, some rock and roll show from the 70s.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be looking into that.
Yeah, looking for that. Yeah.
Okay, so I do have my last little PowerPoint to share as I wrap things up. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for your informative talk and your presentation. And I definitely learned a lot. And I'll be taking all of my advice. And I'll be using it. I do have some notes, so I'm excited about that. So after our session, I know that Dr. Barton talked a lot about publications. We always recommend people have a reflection, and our three main things, you can write more, feel free to edit this as you go, is what brought you today? What are your three major takeaways? And what do you want to learn more about? We do on LinkedIn publish some of these reflections if we see them and you spent the actual time to properly write one out. We are excited to post those on LinkedIn or our social media. Sometimes they go up on Instagram. Sometimes you can find them on our website as well. That is a nice way to show people that you're actually involved with our program other than volunteering. So if you wanted to do that, you're more than welcome to. You can email it to info@prehealthshadowing.com and we're happy to take a look at that. Just so you know, there you go for the LinkedIn. We have published a few of the other ones. So if you want to go on LinkedIn or Instagram and look around, you can see some of the other reflections people have posted and see kind of where you fit into that. So you can see if there's anything you can write. So again, if you're interested in being part of our program, we are 100% remote, but you can just go online to prehealthshadowing.com and you can go into the get involved, or you can just contact us if the get involved is kind of being weird or wonky, you have tech issues, you can just email us and we will get that sorted out for you and you can kind of apply. Feel free to ask any questions as well about the application process. So we are accepting those invitations. And lastly, I'd also like to humbly ask if you can donate, that you do donate, or if you can spread the word about our program. We're always looking for people who are ambitious and excited to volunteer with this program and share resources and educate people on pre-health and the healthcare fields. So if you can do that, that'd be great. So lastly, what everyone's kind of excited for is how to earn your digital certificate for attending. You just go to the professionals course page, which is prehealthshadowing.com. Dr. Barton will be on the first page. If you just type in our website link, and that he'll be on the front cover that says today's session. And you can sign up for the course. It's usually how you get the Zoom information. So anyone on Zoom right now probably has this course open. The quiz will be open at the end of this session at 6:30. That's PST. And it's a 30-minute quiz. You get 2 chances to get a 70% or higher. It is not as very detailed as possible. It is just if you were listening and you took some notes, you probably get 100%. I mean, it's not something that's very challenging. We usually have multiple choice or true, false, or single choice. And that's pretty easy to find. One of the complicated parts that everyone seems to mess up on is after you finish the quiz, it'll show your score, and then at the very top, it'll say finish the course. You do need to click finish the course to get your certificate. Some people will just exit out of the tab and then you don't really get the certificate. That doesn't help you very much. This will be up indefinitely, so don't worry about taking it right this second, or if maybe you had Wi-Fi issues and you kind of dropped off or you came back and you missed out on some of those sections, you can always go and watch the recording and you can take the quiz after that. So last part is kind of easy. It's again 10 questions and it's on our prehealthshadowing.com. And then you get your certificate and that can be printed, or you can also email that to anyone who's reporting or volunteer or your shadowing hours. So again, if you missed any of it, it's going to be on our YouTube. It's Pre-Health Shadowing, and they have a bunch of other videos. I think we have hundreds of videos at this point with all these different professionals in different fields and different degrees. And you can go and see, maybe if you were looking into like cardiology, you can go look up cardiology and see videos on that as well. And that way you can understand the field that you want to go into. Some people have mixed views of what it truly means to be a doctor in that field, and having true experience with listening to someone's day-to-day or their lectures or their case studies, and understanding that profession is the best thing you can do in order to figure out what you want to do. It's a very difficult decision, and a lot of people end up switching their concentrations when they get into medical school because they didn't have any experience in what it actually meant to be a cardiologist or what it actually means to be a psychotherapist. And so these sessions help a lot in understanding that viewpoint. So be sure to catch our sessions every week. I believe we have one on the 4th and then on the 6th coming up, but I would go on our website and make sure that those dates are correct before looking into it. So excited to do that. If you want to stay in the loop, again, we have all these social medias. We have LinkedIn, X, Twitter, which is X, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our website will also have up-to-date information. And you can go on and you can just send in every course on there if you want, and then they'll email you the Zoom information for that, but it'll also be posted on the website. So see you next time, and thank you for joining Pre-Health Shadowing. If you have any questions, you can feel free to stick around. You can message me, or you can email us at info@prehealthshadowing.com. And I just want to say, Dr. Barton, thank you so much for coming and speaking. I
My
truly enjoyed
pleasure.
your lecture.
Thank you.